Keep playing.
Welcome back to another episode of Eagles Weekly. Here are your hosts, Brett, Haas, Mac, and Jack. How we feeling, fellas?
All right, we are here. Me and Jack, the ACC athlete. I guess I'm hosting, or we're both hosting this because
play by ear. You got it.
Yeah, where Brett is off doing a bunch of things right now, busy man. So we got lots to talk about though, Jack. I mean, I don't know, the news. I guess the big news today was of course Grayson James being announced as the starter, and then of course Tommy. I think the biggest thing that a lot of people have been talking about is just like Tommy kind of like taking a few days. That was like what Bill O'Brien was saying this morning. So that was the big shocker this morning. I just wanted to dive right into it.
Yeah, I mean, big. The last week has been a big week in terms of the peaceful transition of power between the election and now the quarterback change at Boston College. Two very monumental steps in our lives, at least. But yeah, we were talking about before the show. I was surprised that Bill already committed to Grayson James as the starter for SMU. I would have thought he would have given it a few days to keep SMU guessing a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, Bill's been a coach for 30 years. He knows what he's doing. So new QB1 at the helm. Kind of crazy. I mean, I don't want to say it's the end of Castellanos in a BC uniform, because like who knows what's going to happen in the next 3 games. But shocking kind of page in the Thomas Castellanos story.
I feel like I'm definitely shocked. I agree, like that he announced it this week when they closed practice to media, so I wasn't able to go to practice today. So I didn't even get to go to the conference either, because I thought there's not going to be news. There's like no chance they're going to make any announcement on the quarterback thing. But so I thought it was like, it's kind of refreshing that like Bill's just like, hey, I'm like, this is the best thing for my team. I'm being completely open about it. Like, I'm going to get the whole team and like kind of even fans on board with what I'm trying to do. And
yeah,
I think I agree with you on like, this is based on everything he sees and kind of what fans kind of saw in that last game against Syracuse, that this is the best chance for the team to win. And he's just, he's not going to be secretive about it. Just it is what it is. And I think based on like kind of a lot of things that people were seeing in the Syracuse game, and not just Syracuse game, the last couple games of the season, all the way back to maybe even Michigan State.
Yeah.
It's like you basically had Tommy like not be able to be Tommy anymore, whether that's mental, whether that's the coaching, whether that's the injury, who knows. But he was not able to run anymore. And once he's not able to run, you don't really have – what's the upside? It seems to me like if you're just going to be handing the ball off, which is exactly what they did against Syracuse, 315 yards, and you don't have a passing game and Tommy can't run, the upside is putting in Grayson because he can make throws and I don't know. I think that's, I guess, the upside to have some sort of a passing game.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy did show improvements. Obviously, FSU, who in hindsight is terrible, and that he should first 2-3 games he showed some improvement, some upside in terms of his passing performances. But yeah, once teams don't consider him a threat to break games open the way he was able to do last season against SMU, against Georgia Tech, it really just when he's one-dimensional like that, and his one dimension is passing the ball from the pocket, that's just not a recipe for success in any ways. I mean, this whole transition happened so quickly. It reminds me of when last season when we went from Moorhead to Castellanos after 3 series. I wonder if Bill was kind of holding out hope, hoping this would change. But for whatever reason, whether it's mental, system, injury, combination of the 3, it's pretty clear it's not going to work out with Castellanos, at least right now.
Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah.
feel like the same way, and I feel like that based on kind of obviously the offense had a. This is what's so mind blowing by it, though, Jack. It's like the offense last year had a pretty good identity, and I think that was a big part of the decision with Bill O'Brien. It was like there was a consensus there. There was a consensus that Tommy, for the most part, was going to be, the best chance for Boston College to win, and you definitely saw that in the first couple of games. So it was just so obvious, even though the hunch with a lot of the media was that, which is objective, Bill O'Brien likes the pocket passer, and Tommy is not of style quarterback that he would prefer to kind of develop. And so there was a contradicting thing there, but what would like totally trumped that to, I guess probably, this is that week, Jack. It was that basically, there was a consensus there. And I think that, despite the so-called quarterback controversy and all those different things like in the spring practice, which I think most people dismiss, like, it's funny now, the same media now is just like, okay, this is pretty obvious that Grayson gives the best chance to win. And I think this whole season has been just changes in expectations, like whether that's win losses, whether that's the quarterback and who should be taking the reins. I mean, it's just been a roller coaster. And I mean, I think BC fans, for the most part, are pretty used to this. There hasn't been like a consistent quarterback since, I don't even know, like since
2016.
Yeah, maybe Towels. I don't even know.
Yeah, that's who it was. Someone put out that stat. Last quarterback to play 12 games.
And I think, and it's also, I think what fans are feeling too is that we saw the ridiculous fall off from Jurkovec, in the previous 2 years, and then to see the kind of same thing happen pretty much with Tommy, where it's like not only he's falling off, but then almost seems to, which I feel for the guy. These are student athletes; these are young men. So it's like I don't want to be too harsh on him, but what makes like the whole when Jurkovec went to Pitt, and then it almost feels like the same way where it's like there's a failure there, and then there's like it seems like Tommy, whether people are saying he's quitting on the team, he's like taking a few days off. So there's not that like, I don't know. I think there's a little bit of like just animosity and sadness towards like the quarterback's like failure, and then it's like kind of like it's like just a bad situation all around, whether it's for the player or for the team too.
Yeah, I kind of hesitate to conflate taking a few days off with full on quitting on the team.
I agree.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know how old he's 20, 21 years old, and he got benched pretty suddenly in the middle of that game. And he pretty much got told right away, this is Grayson's job now. I don't know what reports are out there. But I don't blame Tommy for looking bummed out and post game, whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, at the same time, it just kind of adds to the whole chaos of the quarterback situation here. And it'll be really interesting. I mean, we saw Grayson James throw 6 passes against Syracuse. That was it. He handed the ball off. It'll be really interesting to see if against SMU, if he's forced to throw 20, 25 times, doesn't look great. Looks kind of like how he did in the beginning against Western Kentucky. It'll be interesting to see what the kind of direction is there, how committed Bill actually is to Grayson as QB1. So like I said, I don't know what else is out there, but I'm hesitant to completely make this an open and shut case. I think it's Boston College. This crazy thing are always going on with the quarterback, so we'll see.
I want to talk about the Cuse game, and we can recap that a little bit, but I do want to agree with you where it's like, this team needs Tommy. We need the depth at quarterback. I think that's a huge thing I think he just needs a few days to kind of figure out. It was a shocking development for the program and for him. So, I mean, I hope he comes back, to be honest. He had incredible, I think, development last year, and I think he had a lot of good moments this year. So people forget that. But I think the reality is, though, he wasn't performing consistently at quarterback. And what I was basically watching in the press box, against in the Cuse game, was that he wasn't able to make easy passes. And I don't think he was able also to even be able to read or even see a lot of the wide receivers that were open. I mean, obviously he's like not the tallest of quarterbacks. So
no, yeah, that's been what people have been saying.
I literally think he was
even when he does play well. So
yeah, there was multiple plays where there was wide open receivers, and I don't think he was able to see them over the line. And then with Grayson, you saw like he had no problem with those short intermediate passes and getting it open to the open receiver. We saw him, go 5 to 6, 51 yards and a touchdown. So, so that's the upside there. As far as like for me, the most things I saw, the offense was significantly more consistent. And when you had a Syracuse team that felt like at least their passing game was able to do what they wanted and their wide receivers were making plays. I got to give a shout out to the defense with Tim Lewis. I think he called an incredible game. I think Donovan Ezeraku had maybe his best game of the season. And then I think the stat is they kept Syracuse to 39 yards rushing. And I know obviously Syracuse is a passing offense, but the way to make them one-dimensional, literally, and to completely stop the run is a huge, huge thing by the defense. And I think the defense, with the offense being more consistent on offense and being able to play a full game, and then that defense, that's how you win games. And I thought it was a great performance overall.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the 30 points kind of gives the defense enough credit there. I mean, I think, you look at Syracuse's McCord's passing numbers, 31 for 48, 392 yards. It looks like you stuff the stat sheet. But when you make Syracuse a one-dimensional offense where they're no threat to run the ball, and you're able to get pressure in the backfield like they finally were able to do in this game, it's not it doesn't feel it doesn't hurt so bad.
Right.
So I thought the defense played really well. They made plays when they had to. Quintavious Hutchins made another big play, another turnover. They got the safety, first safety since 2012. I saw that stat. Should have been a touchdown, but
yeah. That ball, by the way, because I didn't get to watch the replay on that. Did he?
What did you say?
Did Donovan kick that ball? Was that how it got in the end zone? Or
I think so. I think Donovan or I forget. Or somebody kicked it, and then they weren't able to jump on it in time. So, it's the same. And they scored a touchdown on the next drive, so it was all fine.
Yeah.
And honestly, an important touchdown because I put them up 9, I think.
That was a huge. Safety was huge. And then we got
that was a huge turning point in the game, honestly. So I think you can't. The defense they bent, they didn't break too bad. It helped that the offense was able to score more than 30 points themselves.
That was the key. I think it's did their job, and then the offense. It was the first time the defense and offense kind of did their job. So they were able to work together. There's so many times where a defense would make the right stop and then the offense would give the ball right back, and this time it wasn't that case. And I think that was huge. And then you can tell when it gels, like the offense was staying on the field and and being able to be more consistent on drives. And then at the same time, defense was able to make more plays. They're able to get more rests, and that defensive line, just balled out. I mean, you said Hutchins, him having another kind of stellar game there. Of course, I mentioned Donovan. He was all over the place, 2 sacks apiece. I mean, they're making pressures. And I think, again, with Tim Lewis, it seems to me that he's been able to not only develop this defense even more and more, but he's getting more comfortable understanding the guys and understanding in certain situations how to do more blitzes. Because at the beginning of the year, he really wasn't designing any, the design blitzes were down. I think they were only blitzing 25% of the time. So for them to kind of ramp that up and to be able to get pressure consistently, against Syracuse was a huge factor in this game.
Yeah, and one last note on the defense. I think Cam Arnold's been a big loss the past 2 games. Davion Crouch and Owen McGowan came up big. I think they tied the team to lead in tackles. They made a lot of big plays, and then behind them in the secondary, they made plays. They had 4 pass deflections. I don't think they pulled an interception, but they were holding their own against a guy in Kyle McCord that likes to push the ball down the field, challenge guys over the top, and they lost a few reps those kind of over the top plays, but yeah, I think just the defense as a unit, they did their job, especially with the guys that are missing in Jackson and Arnold. Yeah, they as simple as that they did their job, and they put the offense in a position to give them a chance, and they delivered.
Yeah, good call, Jack. I mean, the secondary too, I think, played pretty consistently. Like you said, McGowan and Crouch got 7 apiece tackles. Max Tucker had 5. Carter Davis had 6. KP Price, the safety, had 4. I mean, they were very consistent, and I think a huge game for them to kind of like be tested that much. I know, obviously, I think Syracuse threw a lot, but they were able to, for the most part, shut them down in certain situations when they needed to. And going into the SMU game, they're going to be tested even more, I think, in that space. And I think that SMU is going to be a little bit more balanced too on offense, so it's going to be even more of a test. But I think, what do you think about, do we want to get into SMU, or before we get into that, any more wrap up on, I guess, the Syracuse win? I think it was a huge win, and I think for Bill O'Brien, for me, I predicted that win only really because it was such a must win, and I think again, Jack,
you really did need that one.
Congrats to you on cashing that bet finally, and for all you fellow.
Oh yeah, the over.
We finally made it over 4.5.
I thought it was going to happen. About 5 weeks ago against UVA, but we made it. So I mean, if they didn't win this game, I wouldn't have felt good about them winning any of the last 3 games. But I think you sit at 5-4, you're in a position against. You have 3 bites of the apple. You have 3 chances to get that 6th win on the season. So it's just the kind of win. It's the kind of win that you needed. So
expectations thing, right? It's like we're looking before the Syracuse game, like, man, it's gonna be tough to go to a bowl. Now it's kind of like you should win one of your last 3 games. Like, you should go to a bowl now. It's like,
I mean, SMU's I don't know, they're the best team in the ACC right now. But UNC stumbled. Pitt stumbled lately. So I mean, I think they'll have 3 shots at it. I think they have a really good chance of getting that 6th win and getting that bowl bid.
But to wrap it up,
I
just want to say, I will say, just though, it's like, again, I think credit to Bill O'Brien and the coaching staff. I think they did what they had to do to get the win, and it was a must win at home. And again, shout out to the home fans. That was like an awesome atmosphere at Alumni. Beautiful fall noon game. The stands were packed, and technically a sellout, except for the few people that were leaving at the end. But honestly, majority of the game was packed, and was a great scene. Jack, you were at the game, right, in person, or were you off?
I was at the game. The first half beginning of the game was great atmosphere. I had the privilege of moving to a box at one point in midfield, which is pretty awesome.
Nice.
I saw AJ Dillon was standing right in front of me, which is pretty cool. I did tweet about a lot of kids left in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, man, that's not. I don't like the new tradition, to be honest.
I know. I tweeted about it. I was like, what do we need to do to get kids to stay in the stands in a back and forth game against an ACC rival? I don't know.
Thrilling of a game as it gets too. I don't understand. Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much you can do as an administration or as a athletic department to promote the game.
Right.
But I mean, at a certain point, it feels like a culture thing of these kids leaving, and it sucks because that's the kind of game that you really want to have a packed crowd for down to the wire. I mean, those are the types of games that you need it.
That was just disappointing.
Yes. So I mean,
it's totally and I mean, I think the obvious take is that it's because of winning or lack of winning, and it's been
sure. I mean, the energy is totally different now than it was against Michigan State. I mean, everyone stayed the entire game for Michigan State in the cold rain, so there's energy around the program back then.
It's
and
like
just, I guess
I think that's like what it is, though. You could feel that the energy or like the focus on the team was significantly less, as much, even though the stadium was sold out the same way it was in Michigan State, but it was like not enough where people were so engaged where they wanted to stay in the fan stands. It was like, okay, we'd rather go tailgate, go back to the dorm, or watch this in Cityside instead of like staying here. And I don't know, it's just that was. Yeah, and it's, I don't want to rag on the students, because those students have been incredibly consistent showing up, especially in the last couple of years when the product was not that great on the field. But I think that's part of it. It's like when it hasn't been consistent there, and the product isn't at where the standard in which obviously it should be, and what Bill O'Brien's like been preaching he wants it to make it. You're gonna have things like that. But yeah, I don't know how the solution to that is, to be honest. It's just
I mean, I wonder if it was a special. I mean, the nature of the game was BC started out hot, like they have a couple of times. They go 14-0, and then Syracuse scores 21 straight. Tommy's playing poorly, made a quarterback change. I mean, I know at a certain point in that game, I kind of felt like, oh, what the hell? Like, what the hell is going on? What are we doing? Like, we changed quarterbacks. We left 21 points. It feels
down
like a loss.
With your backup.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like for UNC and Pitt. But yeah, before we move on from Syracuse, I just did want to shout out the run game, of course. Kai Robichaux, 20 carries, 198 yards. I think he won ACC running back of the week. I mean, between him and Jordan McDonald, who hadn't seen action since
breakout game. Yeah.
I mean, what the hell? Like, 15 carries for 133 yards. That's like 9 yards a carry. I don't know what the game. I don't know what they saw from him that they wanted to give him all those carries. Trayshawn Ward didn't see any. Turbo Richard was injured, I think, but yeah, obviously he was out. So I wonder what this looks like going forward, because you have 3 running backs that have shown you good action between Robichaux, McDonald, and Ward. It's going to be interesting how they split those that load, especially against an SMU team that does a very good job against the rush. So that'll
be interesting. I think the personnel choices have been interesting the last couple of weeks, which probably makes sense because BC, the coaching staff, is still trying to figure out and make it gel. But it seemed like, at least with the power rush game, with, like you said, with Robichaux and McGowan, you have like McDonald, you have like this kind of like, you have the ability to do the power run and everything, and that's incredible. But it was interesting how, like, some games before, when they wanted to do more of the passing or wheel route, they had Trayshawn Ward in there. I was kind of trying to look at that, because he did play a few snaps, but he obviously wasn't getting the majority of the snaps back there. They were going pretty much run power game, and that's I think, to me, as we're going kind of look into the SMU game, that's going to be a completely different personnel, I would say. But before, like, we kind of dive in, I just will say, I think Bill O'Brien kind of mentioned, like, for the McDonald situation, he was just balling out in practice for the most part. That's what he said. And just like wanted to reward him, and then just took off, and then they just kind of kept going to him, which was incredible to see.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly saw that they thought they were going to be able to push Syracuse around at the line of scrimmage, and they clearly did on both sides of the ball. So credit to the coaching staff for seeing that in practice and actually committing to it during the game. And maybe if we completed more than 7 passes, Trayshawn Ward would have gotten more involved. I don't know.
Right.
But that'll be interesting to see what they do for the SMU game. So
this SMU matchup's like gonna be tough, but it's gonna be a completely different game than, obviously, Syracuse. They're not going to have a game plan of the power run. That's like not going to work against SMU. They're going to have a more balanced offense for sure. But it's tough because it's like, again, SMU sits there 8-1, top the ACC standings. This is a completely different team. If people are looking at the Fenway Bowl in the pouring rain and think this is going to be anywhere near that type of game, they're kidding themselves. It's not going to be at some ballpark. It's not going to be in the monsoon that was that Fenway Bowl game. And we have completely different personnel. Tommy's not the quarterback anymore, and their starter is back and rolling. So it's going to be interesting. But at the same time, I do think there are some matchups there that you can kind of take from that Fenway Bowl game, especially like some of the secondary things and things like that. But yeah, you're gonna have to. This whole week, and I think this is why practice is probably closed to the media this week. They're going to be trying to develop that passing game as best as they possibly can, and develop Grayson as quickly as they can with the first team this week, and try to see if they can have some decent, consistent, play at quarterback with the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the way that where SMU's production kind of comes from, they clearly like to spread the ball around the field. I mean, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 receivers that have pretty much caught 200 yards or more this season, and then Brashard Smith has been a beast for them, averaging 6.5 yards a carry. So I mean, they're clearly a very balanced kind of offense, and I think we're gonna have to. I mean, as well as we said that Tim Lewis's defense performed against Syracuse, they're gonna have to play, way better if they're gonna have a shot in this game. Because I mean, I looked at the spread. I think they're favored by about 17 points, which is what Florida State was favored by us when everyone thought they were hot shit. So
wait, what is it? 15? Yeah,
it was 17 points. The spread.
Wow, that kind of moved up a bit, I think.
I think 16 and a half, 17 I've seen.
Yeah.
Which is what Florida State was before their kind of collapse of epic proportions. But
I mean, I've been following this SMU team. I feel like it's incredible. Their first year in the ACC, now they find themselves at the top here, and I didn't see it coming too, because to me, they started the season really rough. Like they had that scare against Nevada, and then that loss to BYU. And then you're kind of like, oh, like this is just a G5 team trying to make it in the Power 5. They're going to have a rough season. And then they just like balled out since, like just basically blown away. Their offense been consistently like scoring like 35 points basically. So I don't know. Now you look at this and you're just like, for me, I think towards the beginning of the year, I was like, oh, SMU, they're similar talent level of the Fenway Bowl. That's the reason why BC was able to compete with them. And now I'm thinking more like, is this going to be a total blowout? I mean, we're having to travel all the way to Dallas. Luckily, the nice thing for BC is we have a really good alumni base down in Texas, so that'll be great for them to see that game. But this is going to be a very tough matchup, I think. But I think there's a way for them to play them. I think you're going to have to throw the ball. And to be honest, like I think Tim Lewis is going to have to call a lot of the same way that he called against Syracuse, which is like strategically designing some pressures on the quarterback, because that's going to be the best way, I think, to disrupt that offense. You're going to have to – you can't just sit back, I don't think, and totally be – hey, like let them go all the way down to the end zone and like try and stop them there. I think you have to try to disrupt that as many times, as many chances as you possibly can, because your best weapon right now for BC is Donovan Azaraku. I think that's very clear. He's the best player on this team. You have to give him all the opportunity in the world to make a difference in this game, because we saw this with multiple wins for BC. Donovan Azaraku has won at least 2 or 3 games for this team. So I think that's your biggest factor for me going into the game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, clearly Azaraku need a big game from him. But I mean, AJ Black talked about this last time on the pod, how teams they don't really fear anyone else on this Eagles defense, especially with Cam Arnold out. So I do fear that they're kind of just going to play. They're just going to key on him and play away from wherever he's at. So yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I felt particularly good about this matchup. I think the blowout potential is certainly there. But I think with Bill committing to Grayson James early in the week, allowing him to get a full week's practice at quarterback 1, not switching off with Tommy. Hopefully he's able to develop, some chemistry with the receivers. I know who against Western Kentucky was it Jerand Bradley that he connected with on a few. I think they were high school teammates. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we can. I mean, because really, A lot of the receivers on this roster have not been super involved. But whether it's the scheme or whatever. But yeah, we're gonna need to really diversify the offense a little bit. We're not gonna be able to rush for 320 yards against this team. So I mean,
I have to find.
yeah,
Yeah.
if there's a way to stay in this game, it's really just figuring out a way that put Grayson James in the best positions possible to really spread the ball around the field and keep the SMU defense guessing as much as you can. Because if you become one-dimensional against a team as good as SMU, it's just not going to go your way if you're BC. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree. I think like the best thing is to, like, for the offense, find a way for them to stay on the field, find a way to score touchdowns when you can. And if I think if like the offense honestly is able to somehow be consistent in this game, I think there's a chance. I think the most consistent part of this team has been defense, but I honestly might be crazy for saying that. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the Mustangs, if I'm correct here and the stat hasn't changed, they're averaging 446 yards a game. So like they're a powerhouse offense. And then like you mentioned, Jack, only 90 games for opposing rushing teams. So they're only giving up 90 yards per rushing per game. So if you look at BC, right? If you look on paper, you're like, okay, BC only was able to run the ball like last game. They're going into one of the teams that are one of the best in the entire country at stopping the run, and then they're incredibly balanced and potent offense. It's gonna be, I don't know. Would you say, besides, honestly, you can make the argument this is a tougher matchup than Mizzou, toughest matchup of the year?
No, I mean it certainly turned into that. I mean, I agree. Like I agree with what you were saying. Preseason, I saw SMU on the schedule. I was like, I thought to myself, I said, oh, it's we beat them in the Fenway Bowl. Who knows how the season shakes out? We'll see. And well, the season shook out, and the season shook out in a way where SMU's top of the ACC and playing for a college football playoff bid. So
yeah, the rankings come out tonight. I think SMU.
Yeah, I think so.
They're in as
I
of
mean,
right now.
in the AP, I think they're 14th.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's another thing I wanted to say. SMU, they're not going to be. I don't think there's any trap games for them right now. They need to win every game if they want a chance to extend their season into the playoff. If they want to be in that bracket, they're keying on every single game. So we're not going to sneak up on them. We're not going to sneak up on them the way we snuck up on Florida State last year or the way we blitzed Mizzou this year.
The thing for BC though, it's like there's no trap games with this team, and especially SMU when their first year in the Power 5, Power 4, they prove themselves every game. Like they know the country's watching. This is going to be a 3:30 kickoff on ESPN. Another chance for them to show off their stadium, their program, that they're real, and I think they're going to not only want to beat BC, they want to blow us apart. So I think we got to be ready for that. Should we get into should we just
predictions
here?
Yeah. I mean, if we want to predict them, I think we've talked about SMU's offense. They've kind of they've risen to the challenge seemingly every game the past month or so, and I don't think you're holding this team to 17 points on Saturday. I think, and it's Grayson James' first start against a Power 4 conference team. It's on the road. It's against a really good defense. They're gonna make him throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel good. It feels to me like a 37-14 kind of win for SMU. I hate to say, I don't really see BC and Grayson James' first real start as true QB1 putting up a ton of fight. That's not to say I don't think they can win any games the rest of the way. I think they certainly can. But I think just in this specific spot against SMU, I don't know if I see a ton of ways where they can kind of pull this one off.
Yeah, that's fair. You're probably right, to be honest. I think I'm gonna be a little crazy here. We don't have Delulu Brett on this pod, so I have to
No, we don't.
I think I have to like be a little Delulu Mac
Okay.
Brett. I think I'm going to stick with my initial hunch at the beginning of the season, like similar to you, Jack, where I was like, "Hey, I think this is a beatable win. I think this is a beatable team. I think just because they are able to like pull off these different things in the last, 5-6 weeks, they have been an incredible team. I'm not going to deny that, but this is college football. You have Grayson homecoming. You have about 12 teams.
Yeah, I forgot he's from Dallas. Yeah.
He's from Dallas. He's from like 20 minutes away. He grew up from, where they're going to be playing on Saturday. There's about 12 Texans, players from Texas on the BC, roster. I think there's something more here. And also I think I'm looking at, SMU and, Florida State was able to put 16 on them. Nevada was able to put 24 on them. There still is a Power 5, team that BC is, and we're just proven that we're able to run 315 yards on Syracuse. I think as much as people want to look at the stats and say how good they're stopping the run, it's like, yeah, well, this is Boston College football, run the damn ball. I think they're going to be able to have some success there, and I think they're going to be able to have Grayson James. And I think this is going to be one of those games where you might, after the game, whether it's win or loss, because I think this is going to be a close game, that people are going to be on, like, look at the genius of Bill O'Brien, how he was able to develop Grayson James, who's a pocket passer, the type of player that he's going to want to have in the future. That's the type of quarterback that we're going to be getting, whether it's the transfer portal or through recruiting, that Bill O'Brien's looking for. At least someone that can throw the ball and can, zip the ball in there. So I'm going to be crazy here, Jack. I think they're going to win the game. I think they're going to find a way for Bill O'Brien to have his second top 25 win of the season in his first year. They're going down to Texas. It's going to be a shocker on ESPN 3:30. I think BC is going to win 31-28. And the funny thing is they're going to kick a field goal potentially later in the game.
Field goal to win?
I don't know to win.
After they missed a 29-yarder on the first possession of the game.
Oh my God, that was incredible. And remember that punt that barely made it over the defensive line. We forgot to talk about that.
Yeah, 25-yard punt from Zavenko, and then they put Liam Conner in the game. He's a kicker, right? And they put him in at punter.
I think the boldest prediction I just made there was that we're going to make a field goal. I think we're going to make a field goal down in Texas.
All right, I like that. I got it in ink. I say we lose 37-14. You said we win 31-28. So
yeah,
I like that one of us went positive. So we don't have to lose the Brett. So one of us had to.
Yeah, one of us had to, and I really do think like we're going to see. I think it might be our best performance passing wise. There might be some mistakes, and obviously Grayson has very little experience. It's an easy possibility where he throws a couple picks and the game's like not even possible to pull off. Mm-hmm. But I think there is also a chance for I think this is where Bill O'Brien shines. This is why we brought him to Boston College for. It's to develop quarterbacks. I think that's why he made this announcement early in the week. I think he wanted to make this a very clear statement to fans, to the program, to his team specifically the most. This is our quarterback. We're going to develop him. We're all going to get behind him here. It'll be interesting to see. I think, like you said, Jack, he's going to develop Grayson as much as he can in these coming days and put him in the best positions possible to not make those silly learning mistakes. He's worked with young quarterbacks before. He's developed them. I think we see a little bit of that on Saturday, and it gives us BC a chance to pull off this crazy upset.
I like that. We'll see if 6 days is enough to get him ready. We'll see.
Yeah, let's see how much how wrong I am or not, but we'll see.
It'll be funny seeing the graphic that you post of me going 37-14, you going 31-28. It'll be a good graphic.
I am almost positive I'm the only one that will pick them to win out of the entire BC media this week. So, that's an early prediction there. But speaking of things that we're unsure of, Let's talk some BC ball, Jack. We have the expert
Yeah.
here
Close it
on
out.
podcast. We have a few teams here, BC basketball and, of course, BC hockey that have been playing absolutely phenomenal. I do want to shout out the BC women's field hockey team as well. They went to the ACC championship. I think they're going into the playoffs soon as well. They lost ACC championship, but a great showing there. But yeah, let's talk some ball, Jack. Not a great,
talk some hoops.
Great start of the season.
I know. Not great. I was Brett and I were in the building for opening night into the Citadel, familiar opponent from last season. As they took last year's team down to the wire. Yeah. So I mean, BC beat the Citadel by 9, which is not really what you wanted to see. I mean, the Citadel is completely gutted. It's the same way we are, honestly, from last year. So only beating them by 9 wasn't super encouraging. The end of the middle 8 minutes, Earl kind of likes to talk about owning the middle 8 minutes. The end of the first half, beginning the second half. They showed some promise there, kind of pushing the lead to 16 points. But I mean, yeah, but they just let the Citadel hang on way too long. You could tell that this group had not played together very much at all. Dion Brown, who was kind of the supposed to be the star transfer on this team, didn't end up making the start. He broke his nose in practice and had been dealing with some lower leg injury as well. So he's kind of in recovery too. So team is just in kind of a bit of a identity kind of. They don't seem to have much identity. They seem to be in a bit of disarray. Earl's trying to plug and play all these guys, but it's not looking great. And then you really saw their first game is real competition against VCU. They crushed 80-55. That was kind of the first game where it was a real litmus test for the Eagles against an actual, not Power 5, but pretty solid D1 school. I think they're 45th in KenPom-ish in that range. So they were never really in this game. I think, let me see if I can pull up the stats. I know Donald Hand led the team in scoring again, but you just didn't really see.
I feel like
he didn't really show a ton of fight, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Donald Hand had 17 points on pretty inefficient shooting.
What's
Elijah
up?
Strong.
I gotta ask this though. What the hell is going on with Chaz Kelly? Like
Nothing. Yeah, I mean he's scoreless in both games, and
0 points, and as a starter point guard, and then I think he only 1 assist against VCU. Like, is he like? How do you start him going forward? Like, that's my question.
I mean, last season when Chaz had a bench role, he started 10 games last year, and he played a bench role most of the year, and he wasn't great. He was serviceable off the bench.
Gotcha.
And I think he only averaged about 3 points a game on not great efficiency, but he was a good plug and play kind of guy. He could run the offense. Earl clearly had a lot of confidence in him. He's a very good Earl liked to call him a coach on the floor. So Earl clearly has a lot of trust in Chaz Kelly and his kind of ability to run an offense. But really, there's not much offense being run at all through these first two games. They don't have much of an identity.
Yeah.
Last year you're a post up QP. Try to get open looks for Mason. Try to get open looks for Jay-Z or cuts or whatever. This year, not a ton of great looks. I mean, you got Donald Hand, who's leading the team in scoring at 19.5 points a game, but he's shooting 30% from the field. Like you're not gonna win many games with your best player shooting 30% from the field. So and then you just got this hodgepodge of new faces, and it's clearly not. It's going to be a season-long thing of them trying to gel, and they have a relatively weak rest of their out-of-conference schedule. I think they got Temple on Friday, and then for their tournament in the Cayman Islands. They have a couple scrub teams that they're going to play there. So I mean, you hope they can kind of figure it out on the fly while beating these kind of bad teams.
Yeah.
But really, it's they do have a lot to figure out.
From the outsider, like Jack, and doesn't know that much, the ins and outs of this team.
Yeah.
Still getting to know them because there are so many new faces. It just seems to me like they were like to be not even in the game ever and to show such a major talent disparity in an A10 team coming, basically against an ACC Power 4 team. There wasn't even a chance of winning that game. And you saw the line. Just I feel like that's a reflection of the program too, of like how big of a line of like we're going into an A10 team and we can't even we don't basically Vegas saying there's no chance of you guys winning. And there wasn't from the start. And it seemed like the speed was overmatched, the size was overmatched, the inability to just rebound the ball, I think is one of the most frustrating things in basketball, watching that where, VCU can miss it 4 times in a row. It doesn't matter. They still have the ball. It was just a gruesome game to watch. And my question then would be not only how do they go forward in this season? Because I'm looking at that, and VCU probably very similar to the majority of the talent, if not even harder in the ACC. Are they going to win in the ACC? That's how I'm looking at this season. Or they get a couple wins maybe, and then what does this say about the future of the program? That's my biggest. It feels horrible that I'm already asking that question 2 games in, but
2 games in, yeah. I mean, I will say, the size thing, the rebounding thing, is going to be a thing throughout the year. I mean, this team they have 12 guys on scholarship. Only 4 of them are forwards. It's Elijah Strong, who appeared in 10 games last year. It's Chad Venning, who transitioned from the A10. It's Jaden Hastings, who's a freshman, and Connie Tachanda, who's a freshman who's only played 3 minutes all year. So we kind of knew this going in. Earl was going to play a lot of 3-guard, 4-guard kind of lineups. But yeah, even with these are how thin we are forward, they're clearly overmatched in terms of size against VCU. I mean, Chad Venning only had 1 rebound. Elijah Strong only had 2 rebounds. Donald Hand and Roger McFarland, 2 guards, were leading rebounders. So, the size thing is going to be it's going to be a big issue. And they're really going to have to learn how to play a 4-out kind of offense. And I will say, if Deion Brown can figure it out, Roger McFarland has showed potential. And, obviously Donald Hand is been wildly inefficient, but they have, in my opinion, I think they have pieces where if they figure out on some nights they could beat some of these lower tier ACC teams.
Yeah,
but they're not gonna have a shot against Duke or UNC the way we did last year or in past years. Last season we'd have a puncher's chance to beat Duke or to beat UNC. I just don't. The talent gap, losing all the guys we lost, it's just not going to be there this year. And in terms of the program moving forward, I don't think that Earl is. It would be a lot to put Earl in the hot seat the way he went from 13 to 16 to 20 wins in his first 3 years, and then lost everything. Probably you probably put some of the blame on him, but a lot of the blame goes on just kind of the way the program as a whole operates, the landscape of college basketball, how NIL. So I don't think he's going to get fired after this year. I will say that now.
Can you speak to that, Jack? Because I feel like the biggest concern to a lot of the outsiders that I've talked to, and I talked to some alumni that has been around for a long time, and they remember the Al Skinner days where it was a consistent physical team. They were in the tournament all the time. And then, so this idea of being able to lose, significant talent, you see all these players being able to be productive on other teams, literally.
Yeah. Right. No, opening night, it was, you saw it.
Right. So it's can you speak to is the program, because of that loss, like for the outsiders are thinking, man, they can't even keep the players, and like they see, okay, this really good recruiting class that Grant's coming up with. It's like, but are we just like a program where like kids come to develop and then they leave, or like is the program doing things to navigate that and to make sure that doesn't happen again? Like what's your insider take on that? Because that's the biggest concern. I think that's the biggest talk for people on the outside. They're just like, what happened to this program? They're not consistent, and like they're just losing players like left and right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have many ties inside the program, but from what I have observed, kind of watching this team, watching, talking to, Mason Madsen or talking to some other
Right.
guys, a lot of the transfers. I mean, I don't want to be a guy that makes all the excuses for Earl. A lot of the transfers, it was not so. At least I won't say it was not solely an issue with Grant. I mean, you got guys like Jaden Zachary. He gets a chance to, sign an NIL deal and play for a team that made the Elite Eight last year. Devin McLaughlin. You have Vanderbilt, who by all accounts is pumping a ton of money into their basketball team. Who, even though they're the bottom of the SEC last year, they clearly want to play ball. They want to invest. And if BC, I wish I was there for the Oscar Kinder days where we were in the tournament every other year. But it's just not how you build teams these days. As as sad as it or as different as it is, it's just the reality. So I mean,
right.
it comes. I think a lot of it comes down to, in my mind, the BC athletic department, Blake James. Clearly, they're willing to invest in football. They hired Bill O'Brien. They really want to get that program up and running. I hope that doesn't come at the expense of the basketball team, because in this day and age, you need a funded NIL collective, so you don't lose guys like Devin McLaughlin to the portal, or Jay-Z, or Mason Madsen is going to play with his brother no matter what. But those kind of guys. So I mean, it takes some additional financial commitment from the university, and I know. I mean, it's tough because
seems like that's the reality of college basketball even more. It almost seems like it's even more dramatic with college basketball because it only takes a few players, right, to make or break.
Exactly. Yeah. With football, you can bring in all these players from all these different, like, it's roster construction for football is far more. There's way more variables. Like, there's way more players out there. I mean, with college basketball, you bring in 2-3 studs, and all of a sudden raise your ceiling by 10 wins.
Exactly. I think like that's the biggest takeaway though too, is like where I think the Hogue Pavilion was a huge asset now, and I think
totally
recruiting, and like I think the ability for BC to recruit is still like top notch, especially in being in the ACC. But I think it's that whole aspect of like, okay, are we going to have an NIL and an athletic department that's willing to put up money to keep these players the same way that they've been pretty much be able to do with the BC football program? And I understand. I think the biggest thing with the BC football program has always been like, hey, we develop these players, but we put up enough collateral to eventually, like, for players like Zay Flowers and Christian Mahogany to stay here, right? So are we doing, like, the question is, are they doing that enough for basketball? Because it's almost like the stakes are higher for basketball. Like we just said, it's like you lose your star player, you lose Quinton Post, you lose like basically your starting lineup from last year. And it only takes like 3-4 players, and you have to start completely over, Yeah.
Like you said, it's a much more stark difference, I think. I mean, in college football, we've seen like Indiana, big turnaround from last year, but you see, it's way more volatile in college basketball. And right now, BC's at the point where those kind of all conference players at lower tier conferences like the American Easts, the wherever Roger McFarland came from, those higher end players, they want to break their way into the ACC however they can. They want that exposure. So right now, that's kind of like the caliber of transfer that BC basketball is getting. They're not getting a ton of the Power 5 starter caliber transfers yet, and they want to be able to get to that caliber. they're going to need to, be able to offer an attractive NIL package. And not to say that's the only factor, because obviously BC hasn't been a winning program, but you have facilities like the Hogue. You have a coach in Earl Grant who just despite his flaws, has shown that he can develop a team if given that sort of if given a consistent roster from year over year. He did it for his first 3 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, really, it's a tough spot for BC basketball. It's a tough spot to be talking about this 2 games into the season. I think it'll be, the loss to VCU sucks. I think the rest of the out-of-conference schedule, there are opportunities for wins and opportunities to kind of talk about these young guys that we have on the roster. Luka Tays, Fred Payne, Jaden Hastings. I think it's going to be a big year for looking for those looking for those young sparks on the team. So, I think
prediction for the rest of the season, like before we get too ahead of ourselves and saying like this season's a complete wash and it's just to develop players and rebuild, like that obviously seems to be the truth, but like what do you think as far as, I mean, non-conference looks a little bit softer, they hopefully can get some wins there, but then when it comes to the ACC, do you think they're like able to be competitive in some of the games? Like what is your kind of outlook with the rest of the
season? I mean, so if you look at the out-of-conference schedule, we have 11 games. You're saying at 1-1. But looking at the rest of the schedule, there's a few good teams on here. I mean, Temple's okay. South Carolina's kind of bad. Boise, I mean, we'll see what they play in the tournament, but I think they should be able to get to 7-ish wins, 7-4-ish in their out of conference. And then, once you get to ACC play, I have enough. I think I'm relatively more positive than most are on the roster. I think they have enough talented pieces where if they can use this out of conference slate to find their kind of rotation, find how they gel together. I'm not going to say they're going to win 12 ACC games, but I think you can pick off teams like an SMU, like a Louisville, who's probably going to be good this year. But I mean,
what would be I think everyone's kind of already thinking about worst case scenario, Jack. So like, what would be in your eyes like a reasonable best case scenario for the Eagles? Do you think
reasonable best case scenario? I think
season at all. Like,
I think they have a,
or at least the ACC tournament, I should say, maybe
they have a decent shot to make top 15 teams make the ACC tournament. I think they have. I think if I was just to bet on it right now, I would say I think they would. I think they win in the neighborhood of 5 ACC games, and then a team. I don't know how good Cal or SMU are, but there's gonna be 2 or 3 teams in there that finish with 2 or 3 wins in the ACC. So I think they do make the ACC tournament with around 5-ish ACC wins. But I mean, it's not gonna be pretty. They're gonna pull these wins out from the gutter. It's gonna be ugly, but I mean, in the immediate future, we got some fun out of conference games to look at. So just folks, I'm not looking too far ahead. You take them where you can get them with this team. So
home games coming up, it's still the forum's an incredible place to watch games. It's still gonna be fun. You definitely all should keep going to the games.
Yeah, no, So I'll keep my my 5-10 minute updates. But I think where we should, shame on me for not following this team as much as I should have, was another team on campus, who does have postseason aspirations, and now obviously the men's hockey team, they're sitting at 7-1.
Yeah.
Their one loss of the year is to a road game against Michigan State, who's top 5 in the country, or was top 5 in the country. They're ranked number 2 right now. I think they should be ranked number 1. But Denver's undefeated. But I mean, that's the team that I think deserves the attention of the BC fan base more so than the basketball team. So.
Hockey team, I think they're the clear number 1 team in college hockey right now. Obviously, I understand why Denver's ranked number 1. They're the defending champs. They haven't lost yet, but based on who BC has played, and they've played some tough teams. I mean, being able to sweep Maine, I don't know if people watch, but if you have a chance, go watch that Maine game, the first game of the series, where they were down 2-0 and then scored 3 goals in the third period. That was like one of the hockey games I've ever watched in my life. The Conti Forum was absolutely just like insane. Like as far as a venue and a fandom experience, it doesn't get better than that. I mean, Boston College literally has a team and a program and a venue that's just giving students and fans one of the best experiences ever. If you look at that Maine game and how much they dominated that game, it was almost like they should have scored more than 3 goals. Like that was just such a dominating third quarter where they had so many chances and opportunities, and they were just like, I don't know how much to talk about that team, like Leonard and how he's been able to just like completely dominate, for the first 8 games they played. It's been incredible. So yeah, if there's any program or team to follow, even in sports in general, we can talk nationally. Boston College hockey is, I think, the best in their sport right now, and it's just incredible to watch. It doesn't get better as far as college sports get. I mean, it doesn't get more dynamic than that team right now.
No, I mean, it is crazy what they've turned Conti into for the hockey games the past 2 years. I mean, I'm there every home week for basketball. It's like flipping a light switch. It's crazy the way the student turnout they get. It does grind my gears how they fill up the upper bowl, but then the lower bowl is not always filled up because of the season ticket holders. But champagne problems for a team like BC Hockey. But yeah, I'm not gonna pretend to be an expert on this team. I know our guy Anthony with Eagles Daily. He's a real hockey guy, so we'll have to have him on.
We're definitely gonna have Anthony on
for some hockey talk. But Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault both in year 2. They've got a ton of experience under their belt. Jacob Fowler, the keeper, in year 2. He dominated last year. He's even better this year. But yeah, it's a must-watch product.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely seek that team out if you guys can. So yeah.
Awesome, Jack. I think we have to wrap it up. I know we've already been past your hard stop here. So
yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's not that hard.
Eagles Weekly, episode 13, Jack. I think
in the books.
We made it to 13. Lucky 13, right?
Yeah.
We got
we'll see how lucky this week is to us with down at SMU, but we'll see.
Top 15 matchup on ESPN prime time, almost prime time, 3:30 game.
Yeah, prime afternoon.
Always, I guess, Eagles Weekly. You can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Brett never does this, so I'll tell you guys, do it for the algorithm or do it for just for us if you care at all. Subscribe and put the little notification bell on. That'd be great. I'm Mac, and that's Jack, and the Mac and Jack show is completely. I think it was a success, Jack. How do you feel about
I like the Mac and Jack show. I think we're obviously the 2 best dressed guys on this podcast. The guys showing up, so I think I do like the Mac and Jack show. So
we show up.
Yeah. So
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening, and like always, go Eagles.
Go Eagles.